But anyway, the Woodstock, getting back to
in the
Woodstock,
getting back into Woodstock.
I mean, everyone that they were showing like on the documentary, I was like, oh, yep, I know who they are. So like they had a lot of like big names playing, right? But I mean,
the one they didn't even mention was Metallica was playing that year too. And they didn't even mention, well, Kirk Hammett was in there for a hot second, but they didn't even mention, and they didn't even mention Rage Against the Machine I think they went on right after Limp Bizkit, or they headlined that night. So even then, they had a crazy wild stage presence for that too. Which brings me to the point in which probably is the most controversial thing that surrounds this whole series is the fact that, people are trying to blame Biscuit for starting this whole, out of like rage of the people going wild. And most importantly, their song when they started singing Break Stuff. And for anybody who's a Limp Bizkit fan, just like me and Jim, Break Stuff was, outside of the song Nookie, was their second single off that Significant Other album. Yeah. And, so that was just in your face, high energy, literally no pun, makes you want to break stuff. And, do I blame Limp Bizkit? No, because they were just being themselves. If you've never seen Limp Bizkit at that time, they were high energy. Fred Durst is Fred Durst. Fred Durst can be a whoopsie, but he knew he had that crowd in the palm of his hands, and he could turn it off when he wanted, and he knew he can rile them up even more. And I mean, that's what he did, but I don't think he had an idea of how crazy the crowd was really going at that time. Because, when you're on stage, there's so many different things going on in your mind, and you can only, comprehend so much of it. So I think when he was seeing a lot of those guys on the plywood, he wasn't probably thinking, oh crap, that's coming from the soundboard and everything. He was probably just thinking, okay, he knows this crowd was crazy already. So he probably saw those dudes surfing on that. He's like, oh, well, I want to just do that too. But then production back there is thinking that he is, just riling up the crowd. But I mean, here's my thing, and I'll have your opinion on this too, Jim. Again, I don't blame Limp Bizkit, but I think Fred could have probably calmed them down to a point where he could be like, okay, he could have at least brought back a little bit of the energy because he knew he had that in the power of his hands. But do I blame them as a band for their stage presence? No, because that's just how they were. What do you think?
I mean, the whole band, but Fred being like the lead, right? Because other than Wes Borland, I don't know the names of the other guys in the band, honestly. He's a person of influence, right?
Right.
He's a person that people, I don't want to say worship, but like swore by him. So, if he's, the thing is like he was there to entertain, he was there to do his job, right? And not only did he do it, but he engaged in like the craze, right? Because he got out and was on the plywood himself, and like, it's epic, right?
Which is an iconic image from that weekend too, Yeah,
because not only was he just standing on it, but he was like bouncing,
really getting into it.
Yeah. And the crowd was, I mean, everyone's like, oh my God, look at him go, like
eating it up. Yeah,
they were eating it up. And I mean, at that time, because of how like grungy everything was, he fed into it, and he was getting the crowd into what he was doing, and for him to be like, all right guys, let's settle down now, like he wasn't going to be that person to try to tell the crowd to chill out.
Right. And you even in the documentary, their manager, who was managing a lot of those other bands on the bill at that time, he was saying, other than him saying, Limp Bizkit was just putting on the best performance ever. Limp Bizkit didn't have anything to do with starting it. Limp Bizkit was just being Limp Bizkit. And there's no way you can tame down 200,000 to 300,000 people. So that crowd was going to do what it wanted anyway, no matter if Fred had said something or not. So there's no way you can calm down that amount. You can't calm down a 250,000 amount of people that
Right.
that fast.